Good evening and welcome to the Township of Woolwich regular meeting of council on March 10th, 2026. We welcome everyone here today and all those watching on YouTube. I'll start with roll call of council. I'm Mayor Shantz. I'm chairing this meeting. Councillor Bryant.
Present.
Councillor Burgess.
Present.
Councillor Cadeau.
Present.
Councillor Grant.
Present.
And Councillor Schwint.
Present.
Thank you. Before we start the meeting, council needs to reconvene in open session. Do we have a motion to reconvene? Moved by Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Burgess. All those in favor? And that is carried. Yeah, just a couple things to start off the meeting tonight. March break is next week, and so just a reminder for everyone to watch out for the kiddos playing outside, and be aware that the weather's getting warmer and we'll see lots of activity on the roads. So have a look out, and there's still some snowbanks, so make sure there's nobody running out on the road. The second thing is water safety, and just to mention a couple of things. First of all, we've got some flood warnings for our low-lying areas, so please be aware of the GRCA site and pay attention if you're in a low-lying area. And also be wary on the riverbanks, creek banks, and so on, especially again with the little ones. The banks can give way and they can be slippery, and we want to keep everyone safe. And then finally, March 8th was International Women's Day, and Bonnie and I were just talking a little bit about women in politics, and just want to give a shout out, I suppose, to women and leadership roles in we're making progress. It feels slow sometimes. But just to acknowledge International Women's Day on that was passed on March 8th. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. The Township of Woolwich acknowledges with deep respect that the land we call home has existed since time immemorial, long before our communities were formed and long before we arrived here. Indigenous peoples have had a deep and lasting relationship with this land, caring for it beside all it sustains. We are grateful to the First Peoples who have lived on and cared for this land and who continue to do so today. In particular, we recognize the Chinatan, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people. We honor their deep connection to this land, and we acknowledge their wisdom, resilience, and leadership. These communities have protected and cared for the land with respect, responsibility, and a sense of shared trust. As we move forward, we hope to build a future based on mutual respect, shared responsibility, and stronger relationships with one another. May we continue to learn together, to care for each other, and to honor all who share this place with us. Disclosures of pecuniary interest. Are there any disclosures this evening? No, seeing none. There are no items to come forward from close, no public meetings, no presentations. We do have 4 consent items for approval. Does anyone wish to remove anything for discussion? No, someone want to move them? Councillor Schwint.
I guess question would be on the memo, the fees and bylaws, backdating the fees. Curious the rationale for that.
Who wants?
I think that's the
Dan? Ms. Fries?
Yeah, so this is on the development engineering fees. When the fee study was brought forward with the updated to the fees, this was missed. So we're just correcting a miss that it was excluded when we brought the fees and charges bylaw forward. It is a typical fee that we have included and have for a number of years. It was just missed on the last round.
It was included in bylaws?
Yes.
So we did see it and approve it.
I'm not concerned with the fees and charges, concerned about backdating the changes.
Ah,
Yeah, we haven't collected for an application since that time that I know it would have to be backdated.
okay, that was your hand up. Okay.
Mayor Shantz, I was just going to note that it is not uncommon to backdate bylaws when you've made an issue like this, as long as we can, in fact, follow through, which it sounds like we have.
Okay, thank you. Did I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Bryant, seconded by Councillor Cadeau. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. There is no unfinished business, and we have changed the agenda, and so we will move 6.1 as our first item of council business. And that is, we have our Director of Infrastructure Services, Mr. Poupé.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, through you to council. Before you, you have report ISO 5/2026, which is the Arthur Reconstruction piece. There are two options available for council this evening. This is, we'll say, long overdue, really, for the much maligned downtown of Elmira. Essentially, the options break down as this. There is a 2026 option, which would see the resurfacing of Arthur Street between South Street to Church Street, as well as all new sidewalks and some streetlight pole replacements, including underground electrical conduit, which would also provide better electrical service for such events as the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival. So those are enhancements that could be completed in 2026. It is acknowledged, though, that this does not meet what the intent of the 2022 urban design study for the downtown core in Elmira. That streetscape plan envisioned the broader reconstruction and streetscape, and that is something that staff are still committed to. I think that's critically important. It's really a timing challenge, quite frankly, right now. And also, it's a snapshot in time. We still have truck routing facilitating the downtown core, which does not lend itself well to beautifying necessarily that space in Arthur Street. So really, what we're saying is, by executing in one of these options in either 26 or 27, there is still going to be the opportunity to get the 30 or 40 trees down there, to narrow the roadway, improve pedestrian connectivity by wider sidewalks, more patio space. And that trigger would really revolve around a 15 to 20-year window when we were back here resurfacing. That opportunity would exist, or a bypass then is well underway. And planning staff are already working on bypass options as well that are, well within our reach and certainly in our care and control with respect to development. So I think that's an important piece to note for council and the public, that is not lost on anybody here, is that is the ultimate plan for the downtown core of Elmira. So really, where this falls between 2026 and 2027 is around soil cell trees in the downtown core. We are limited. Time is a real constraint. Funding is a constraint. And unfortunate location is also a constraint. We are not removing curb. We are not realigning storm sewer. That would be part of the full reconstruction project. So we do have the canvas that exists today, and that's what we're working with. Based on that canvas, if trees were to be initiated, we are only looking at between 8 to 10 soil cell type trees, given the available space now. There is mortality rates associated with soil cell trees. They're not guaranteed to live. Ideally, a soil cell tree would be in a bit of a box, so you would not promote any kind of salt runoff or saline water to get in there and destroy growth and so forth. So that would be the ultimate plan. Why this is before council is obviously that trees are critically important. The streetscape did have a number of trees up until around 2009. Or beyond, I guess it was later than that, we removed the trees, but unfortunately due to the emerald ash borer. So it is really, recommendation is option 1 would see the work occur with the resurfacing as mentioned. Option 2, we would have to delay work until 2027 to simply facilitate trees. With that, I think I should probably be happy to answer any questions council may have on the topic.
Other questions? Councillor Cadeau.
with option one, there still is a recommendation to put trees in, just smaller stature trees in the planter boxes. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Costello. That is correct. So further to the recommendation, then if we forego the soil cell trees in option one, planter boxes and other street furniture would be brought forward and contemplated as part of the 2027 budget after the reconstruction. And that could facilitate very small stature trees or shrubbery or some form like that in planter boxes. Correct. Sorry, the other piece that I missed, and I apologize. The important piece here too is a reserve fund transfer that was not part of the original capital budget for the replacement of 48 curb stops in the downtown core. That work needs to occur in 2026 regardless. That would be the intent here, that council would endorse that transfer from the water reserves to fund the curb stop replacements.
Councillor Costello.
So with respect to the reserve account for beautification, the intention with this, and it's an assumption, would be to try to build up reserves. So in 15, 20 years from now, when we have another kick at this can, we actually have a source to pull from.
That is correct. And the intent of the reserve, and this could be contemplated at the budget deliberation cycle for 2027, would be for any urban core area. That would include Breslau, St. Jacobs, and Elmira. And that would be the thought, is that we could then have a reserve fund that could look to address some of these issues in the cores.
Councillor Schwint.
So this project's been delayed minimum 10, maybe 15 years. What has the thought process been for the last 10 or 15 years in on a reserve fund and paying for this project that we knew was coming?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Schwint, I guess really we didn't have an urban plan until 2022, really. So I don't know what the thought was. I think we were just going to deal with what happened and when timing came up. We executed on the 2022 plan. Obviously, that hasn't given us sufficient time to address the funding shortfall, quite frankly. And then we've expedited the timeframes for which to resurface. So that's complicated that a little bit. But really, we hadn't had a plan until about 2022. I think that's the reality.
I'm not seeing any other questions. We do have a delegation. Ms. Costello, speaking on behalf of the Downtown Elmira BIA. And I don't think I need to read all the instructions to the delegations. You're going to be, pleasant and take
Okay.
your 7 minutes. And
Probably be less than 5.
excellent. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz and members of council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Dana Costello, lifetime resident of Elmira, currently residing downtown with my family, and a representative tonight of the Downtown Elmira BIA. Last night, the Downtown Elmira BIA held its annual general meeting. During that meeting, we discussed the decision before council tonight. I've been volunteering with the Downtown Elmira BIA for almost 9 years. Over that time, there have been 5 consistent criticisms raised about downtown. Lack of parking. Thank you, Mayor Sandy Shantz, for advocating to protect parking and supporting not putting in the bike lanes. Patios, something many people would like to see, and I also hope to see when this bypass comes to fruition. We'll keep working on that. Weeds. We have a fantastic vendor contracted to handpick every weed downtown Elmira. We haven't got a complaint in 5 years. 4th, road construction and sidewalk conditions. Oh, the potholes. This reconstruction project represents a long-awaited opportunity to address that. And 5th, the lack of trees. The Downtown Elmira BIA has been discussing bringing trees back to downtown Elmira since the original trees were removed in 2015 due to a bug infestation. For over a decade now, we've been hearing from residents and visitors that they would love to see trees return to our main street. Throughout those years, we were often told that the reconstruction of Arthur Street would be the opportunity to make that possible. Because of that, we have consistently reassured people trees would come when the reconstruction happens. adding shade and giving downtown a feeling of life. In the meantime, the BIA has worked hard to bring greenery into our downtown in creative ways. Our planters and our flower baskets are something we're very proud of, and we receive compliments on it regularly. But whenever someone mentions the lack of trees, we've always said they're coming when the reconstruction happens. We've even been hoarding some money for it. So you can imagine my surprise when I received the email outlining the two options before council tonight. Option 1, proceed with the reconstruction now, but without the tree cells. Option 2, delay the reconstruction even longer in order to include them. This created a very difficult discussion among our members last night at AGM. Personally, my initial reaction was that there must be another way. Maybe we could phase the project. Maybe we could rethink how we're going to do this, do part of Arthur Street now, do the rest later. As a group, we explored several possibilities and we discussed it. By the end of our discussion, the message was clear. The membership wants the road repaired, the sidewalks improved, and the downtown refreshed as fast and as soon as possible. They want to see Arthur Street in a condition that feels clean, welcoming, and reflective of the community that we all are trying to build. And if moving forward now means that we may not have the opportunity to install tree cells for another 15 to 20 years, that is a consequence the membership is willing to accept. In representing the Downtown Elmira BIA and the businesses within it, the preference is clear. Move forward with option 1, get the job done, and get back to business.
Thank you, Dana. That's good feedback. Are there any questions? Councillor Schwint.
So let me be pretty clear on this. There's strong support from the BIA for trees, but you cannot live with the road the way it is for another year.
Correct. Even if this was split into 2 years, there would be this perception of a 2-year construction, and the businesses just can't take that hit.
Understood.
Anyone else?
Just to comment, thanks to Ms. Costello for coming in and bringing that message from the BIA forward. It was a discussion that we had last night, and I think it led to, I think, a good outcome at the end of the day. I still feel like, and we'll debate, I'm sure, I still feel there could be something that we could look at or do, but we'll hear from staff. What my comment really is to thank you for your leadership that you bring to the BIA. We wouldn't be discussing many of the things that we discussed at the BIA without you, so thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. So we do have a recommendation before us. Moved by, no.
I have some questions.
Okay,
So
where are we?
the first question is the 20,000 for the cells. Have we compared that to what the planters are going to cost and what that may look like 8 to 10 trees versus 8 to 10 planters? Are we looking like 20? Do you have any indication if we were to go with option 1, what that would actually look like at the end of the day?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Godot. We don't have, we do need to do some more investigation, but at first blush, we'll say around $2,000-ish for a planter box. I don't have dimensions for that, but when you sort of compare that to the soil cell, significantly cheaper, and I think there's options available for planter boxes and beautification in other areas in the downtown for sure.
I think the previous trees were in planter boxes, were they not?
No,
No?
sorry, they were in the sidewalk.
Were they?
Really, yeah, it was just
Okay.
concrete
been
wrapped
that
around
long,
them.
I
They were
can't
really curbside as well. They were right quite just behind back a curb for the most
Okay.
part.
Thanks. Councillor Schwint.
Following up on Councillor Godot, how many planters are we guesstimating?
Again, through Mayor Shantz to Councillor Schwint, that's just something we have to come back with. easily the 10 locations that we identified for the soil cells, but there'd be more locations, far more locations. The soil cells require a significant volume of soil, and then that's why we were looking at, we can't be into the traveled portion of the road for which to dig the soil. So we only could deal with areas where the curb was already bumped out. So with the planter boxes, I think you can have a variety of sizes. You could obviously commandeer the space that we were considering with the soil cell trees, but other spaces as well. I think there's a lot more opportunity to beautify the downtown core, given the space we currently have with the curb location there with planter box of varying sizes.
So 25, 30, something like that's
Potentially,
reasonable.
yep, absolutely, potentially.
Councillor Cadeau.
We're the ones that are on the hook to pay for the soil cells, so I imagine we're the ones that would have to maintain both the trees and the planter boxes along the regional road.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Cadeau, correct.
Councillor Schwint.
So we may as well open this up. I'm baffled why we can't do a combination. Sure, ideally, I'd love to have 30 trees downtown Elmira. It'd look beautiful. It's not practical right now. Budgets don't allow for it. We got to wait till the bypass happens. I understand that. But sometimes it's better to walk or crawl before you run. Why can't we put in 6 or 8 trees along with 15 planters in 2026? 2026 is a line in the sand for me. Understanding it's going to cost an extra $150,000, $180,000, which I believe could be pulled from 4 different pots to make up that money. We've had 15 years to figure out the money. This is an important project. Whether we do it in 26 or 27, it's still going to be holes on Main Street of Elmira that have to be dug and filled back in. The technology is not new. Holes are dug, we can tie into the wastewater, sewage drains. I'm struggling with why we can't do both.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Schwint. So we can, we cannot do that in 2026. I think that's the answer. We can in 2027, we could add trees. We cannot do it in 2026 based on tender timing, based on design requirement. This is being designed currently. I think that's the important part to realize as well. There's not enough information available currently. We need to do more investigative work. And then each soil cell is approximately 5 days of construction. So it's a week, construction week to do one location. So that extends the contract time. And by the time you get a tender award, you're probably now into August. It's going to bleed over into the following year regardless. We've been told unequivocally impossible to get this work done in 26. But that's why the option is available. If trees are critically important, then it's a 2027 timeframe, unfortunately.
Jared, I'm noticing that in our package, there's a like a PowerPoint presentation at the end. I wonder if some of those slides might be helpful.
Yes. Are those available to pull up by, thank you. So this was a joint report and this was the good work of development services staff to come up with the slides that would give council some indication of what could happen in both scenarios. I think that's important, is whether we do planter boxes or if we were looking to do some soils. So there in 2009 is 35 trees removed. The unfortunate reality here is these were ash trees. And, that's something obviously going forward, you look to mix up what you're planting so you don't decimate the entire streetscape. And that was unfortunately what happened. The other part I think is important to mention is we probably didn't do a good job of manicuring and taking care of the trees that we did have, and that added some complications with respect to facades and signage as well. But it was predominantly as a result of the emerald ash board. So next slide, please. So here are some soil cell trees in streetscapes in Toronto, Montreal. The important part, though, is, and they don't show here, salt is the enemy of the tree for sure. So a raised box would be what we would look to install in a full reconstruction project. The Toronto side, you can see It's far away from the splash of the road. The ones in Montreal, probably a low volume road. But in Arthur Street, even without truck traffic, it's going to be a busy road. So you're going to get that salt splash. The goal would be to try to have it further away from that and up into a box of some form. Next slide. And here's some local pieces. You can see in Waterloo, it's a little further away. It's by the parking space. Those are smaller stature. I don't know the years for which we did it, but then you can see in Kitchener, they do have the raised box on the far left piece there too. But there's lots of variety. It's important to note too, there are different types of soil cell trees. Some require concrete to be, others do not. Some use more of like plastic boxes. So there's a lot of proprietary design components. So just so that everybody's aware, it's not one size fits all per se either. Next slide, please. Again, this is now looking at the possibility of where trees could be planted in downtown Elmira. Next slide. There is the 8 to 10 potential for 2027. Really what we did is looked at where bump outs were that could support the soil quantity required for the trees. Next slide, please. And then here's the idea of some planter boxes with potential benching and street furniture. I think we can do a good job. It is important. I'm glad there's a picture of the crosswalk with the cradle. Those will be removed. Those ankle breakers for horses need to go. And that's going to be, certainly a safety improvement, we would say for sure. And then here would be the opportunity for a full design. Again, the critical part of the design is reclaiming more pedestrian space, minimizing the traffic space. I think just to consider options for us, if a bypass was imminent, there could be a transfer of ownership. The township could potentially take ownership of Arthur Street. The region could then potentially take ownership of the bypass. That would afford us a whole lot of opportunity. You could have a moratorium on trucks, lots of things, then you would have that opportunity to do in that time frame as well. Next slide, and that's the end. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Bryant.
Thank you. Just a question about the trees. Are we looking at using native trees when we do the plantings for Arthur Street versus bringing in ornamentals for survivability?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Bryant. So typically we do like native trees for sure, salt tolerant species, obviously in a downtown core would be nice as well. I'm not a tree expert. I think there's opportunities to look at different things depending, but it would have to work with the climate. But generally speaking, the township does look to plant native trees. But I guess with an ornamental aspect in a planter box, I think there may be some obviously opportunities, and I think we could let the BIA certainly weigh in on what that looks like.
Councillor Burgess.
Through you, Mayor Shantz. Yeah, brought this option forward to tweak the township's environmental committee, and they were happy to provide input in the future for the type of trees that would be native and be good support for the downtown. And they were also supportive of the planter boxes in the interim to get this completed.
Okay, good. Councillor Cadeau.
Considering we're not doing north of Church Street in 06 or 26, we're doing it in 27. Could we maybe put some cells in between William Street and Church?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Cadeau. So because of the timeframes associated with the work in potentially in 2026, it is not likely that the work north of Church will occur until 2028. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Underground infrastructure is required there. Bridge work is required there. Their design consultant is the consultant for both ends, so they've been putting all their time and attention into this. We need to do public survey with respect to expansion of municipal servicing as well, north of Church Street. So there was a whole lot more. That is a full reconstruction piece north of Church. So I think that's important to understand. The cycling lanes are likely to occur somewhere down there, and that's part of the reason why nothing's happening in the intersection, because the region is also contemplating what that interface looks like between cycling and what their cross section is going to be. So that's why we're stopping short of Church Street. Now, I think it's a narrow corridor. I think there's some challenges, but we also know we have the Kissing Bridge Trail. Certainly, we have time to look at opportunities in that reconstruction, I would say for sure.
Okay. Councillor Schwint.
Well, 2 points. I'm a little bit nervous that we don't have time to look at the Arthur Street north of William, because beside the old Plashy Motors, it's been one lane most of the last 4 weeks. So we're gonna have to have an interim solution if 2028 is the actual time. But I'm going back to 2026 repaving of Arthur Street, that section. I'm worried now. If we can't get 8 trees planted in places that are already designated and ready to go, I'm worried that we can't get this project done, period. There's gonna be something else unforeseen and pop up, and it's just not gonna get done properly, because adding 6 or 8 trees in already identified areas, to me, is not that big a scope creep or increase in the work. It's gonna cost more money, and I'm prepared as a council to have that conversation where the money's coming from. But this is March 9th. I believe we can find a way to plant 8 trees in 2026 in this project.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Schwint. So I guess I'm not clear on the concerns. I think that when you say they're ready, these locations aren't ready. They've been a surface look at where a tree could go. So there's a whole lot that could happen with an underground investigation with respect to soil cells. I think that's the reality and the unknown. That would be a worry for sure. And that also complicates the timeframes. If this is simply surface works with planter boxes, all new sidewalk, all new asphalt, and street lighting with cable, it is 2026. That is the commitment for sure. If we add trees, it is 27.
Councillor Caddell.
Keep this conversation going. How about how tall do small stature trees grow to be? Are we talking 10 feet, talking 15, 25? Like, what are we talking here?
Through Mayor Shantz to Councillor, I do not know. There's small, medium, and large stature. I know that. That's the categories, but I do not know what size that translates to.
Councillor Grant.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, if construction is going through in 2026, do we have traffic mitigation plans for during construction, and what would that look like? Are we going down to partial, like 1 lane, or I'm just trying to figure out what's best for the businesses as well as residents moving through?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Grant. Yeah, good question. So the intent is there's going to be a couple of impacts. One would be if council endorses the transfer reserve for the water curb stop replacement work to occur, that would be the first impact. We've looked at that and we're assessing right now. So likely what's going to happen here is we're going to freeze services so that we don't have to shut water off for a whole block at a time. We can kind of do one service at a time. You freeze it on the public side, you make the connection, you thaw it and connect. That's a viable option, and that keeps services for the rest of the block. Obviously, there's always a risk of an emergency shutdown, but we could then isolate a block. So, that remains to be seen, but at least we've assessed that impact, and we're only permitting, the plan is to permit maybe 7 locations to be exposed at one time. That's a hydrovac location, so that would be an area potentially 2 meters by 2 meters, potted down, isolated. We're trying to maintain access to businesses. I think there are some locations where the curb stop is directly in front of the door. That could be a challenge, and we would have to deal with that as well. So that is the first impact, and that would be the curb stop replacements. But we would see that minor in nature. I think as far as the resurfacing component goes, the intent would be to leave the road open except for paving. Paving and echelon would occur. Haven't talked to the region about this. That could be done potentially at night. That would be a closure for sure, required to do that work. But I think the intent would be to try to do one side at a time with respect to the electrical and sidewalk. But we can certainly report back once we know more from the region on the staging and the designs progressed further. But that is our vision right now. But I think that we would report back for sure to council once we have more detail.
Thank you. And I presume when we have more of the details, we would be able to communicate to the public, whether it's through radio, television, on those closures potentially.
Absolutely.
Okay. There is not a motion on the floor yet. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Schwinn.
So with every hard decision, I like picking it into pieces. So the easy part first for me is 2026 is a must have. So I'd make the motion that the reconstruction must occur in 2026. And then we can decide on any features we want to add or potentially add.
Are you looking at the recommendation that staff had suggested? The first part is, I think what you're suggesting is moving ahead in 2026. Then there's also a transfer of 250,000 from the water reserves to fund the replacement of the water supply shutoff.
So let's make the details a separate motion. So, Councillor Burgess.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, I believe the 250 is part of both motions. So if you want to add that in as part of it, it's.
I don't like either staff recommendation quite as written.
Okay, well, you're putting the motion. I guess you can put it as you wish and see if anyone seconds it.
I'd say, let's go piece by piece then. I'd move number 1 of option 1.
Okay.
See if we're all inside of that.
Seconder for that. Councillor Burgess. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Any more motions?
Okay.
If
Fine.
not
Councillor
the water
Green.
reserve, then where?
So I guess I wanted to put money out and beautification together because there may be some contentious or controversy over that one. So I'd be in favor of the 250 from the Water Reserve Fund. But before I speak to that, I'd also like to speak to beautification so that we install 6 to 8 mature stature trees with soil cells, as well as approximately 15 planters, and that the funding along for that and the water reserves, or sorry, the water supply shutoff valves comes from 250 from the Water Reserve Fund, 50,000 from the MAT Fund, 50,000 from the Climate Reserve Fund, 50,000 from Township Reserves, and ask for 50,000 from the BAA because I believe the delegate mentioned there's some money squirreled away there. And that would pay for the beautification, the first steps of beautification until we can get a bypass done.
Okay, the concern I have is that staff have told us they cannot do the cells in 2026.
The investigation hasn't been done, so I'm not sure we know it can't be done. They've looked at the surfacing, a surface look, identified spots. So what's the next step in identifying the constraints to getting it done?
Councillor Burgess.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, I appreciate the sentiment, Councillor Schwint. We all want trees. I think it's a great thing, as a delegate said, and we want to do anything in our power to get them in there. But Mayor Shantz, myself, and Councillor Cadeau have kind of been part of this discussion since the beginning, and I'm just happy it's getting done in 2026. And I think that in and of itself is a bit of a miracle, and I don't want to put anything in the way. And if they're telling us no, and look at where we are already in this year, I think it's time to get this moving. And if you put this in, they do their research, I think it's just delaying everything, and you're asking for an excuse to get this delayed again by the region.
Councillor Grant, I think, had her hand up, and I'm gonna let, no, you didn't? Okay.
So if the investigations happens and we come up, this is why it can't be done at the next council meeting, I can accept and appreciate that. But so far, it's been a pretty superficial identification, and I'm not understanding why it couldn't happen. And I think it behooves the township to do a bit of more work on that.
So I'm going to make the clerk happy and go back to Robert and say we have a motion on the floor but that it hasn't been seconded. Does anyone want to second it? Okay, so it dies as it was. Are there any, does anyone want to put another motion? Councillor Burgess.
I'll move the other three there, 2, 3, and 4 for option 1, I think it was.
There's seconder, Councillor Cadeau. Any further discussion? Councillor Cadeau.
I appreciate the discussion tonight. I appreciate the constraints with timelines, but it's also the cost. It's what we've heard from residents as well, is that these soil cells are not cheap. And that money has to come from somewhere. The way that the option was written is we're pulling that largely from the Greening Reserve Fund, which I couldn't support. I think that we've used up some of that money. There's still some sitting there, but I think that we do have a plan to move forward with some of those funding for some environmental specific projects, not just putting trees in the ground. So there's a concern with that. Really appreciate you, Councillor Schwent, trying to examine other potential sources for that expenditure. But at the end of the day, it's $20,000 for one tree, and that's just the cell. And it may survive, it may not. I wouldn't have thought that I would be in this position here tonight if you would have asked me 2 months ago. But in having conversation with township staff and regional staff, the constraints are real. And we cannot delay this. It's a non-starter. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're ready to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, thank you. Just give me 1 second. This one's so good.
Before you leave, Jeff, oh.
Okay. Tender award for turf maintenance. Mr. Vanderhoff.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So RCS has before you this evening an award report for tender 2025-23 for turf maintenance services. Staff are recommending that council award the contract to Do Right Landscaping for a 4-year term from 2026 to 2029, as well as an optional extension for 2030 and 2031 for a total contract value of $884,000 after the HST rebate. Some background, so township staff, the township maintains turf throughout the township, variety of parks, open spaces, trails, boulevards, and facility sites. The amount of land is increasing. In 2015, it was approximately 128 acres. Now we're at 176 acres today. Properties were categorized over the last few tenders now in either high, medium, or low priority, which determines height of grass, how long, the maximum height, specifies things such as fall leaf cleanup, that sort of thing. And over the last 2 contracts, we've kind of refined a blended model. So we do maintain some turf in-house, a small amount. Mostly our premier sports fields, and that just allows us to ensure that we're meeting the service level that our user groups expect. And if we need service, on short notice, we're able to get out and get that completed for those user groups. Tender results. So we received a total of 10 submissions for the tender. Do Right Landscaping was the lowest qualified bidder. We did receive 2 lower submissions. However, we're not recommending them based on them not meeting the tender requirements, specifically the equipment and balanced pricing as well. Do Right actually completed the contract for us this last contract, and in 2025 they took on the second half of it. So they've done the entire township in 2025. So they are experienced and know all the sites, which is a relief for staff that we don't have to go through some of those growing pains with new contractors. Financially, very small increase over 2025 contract. We have added some additional acreage as well too, a little bit of a shift between the properties that we're maintaining and what we're asking the contractor to maintain. And then there are some financial implications, a smaller number for other departments as well too, specifically infrastructure services and fire, just for their sites. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Questions? Councillor Schwint.
Just curious, we're doing about a third less area in-house. Wondering what we're doing, I guess, instead to make up all that extra work. Because I'm sure we've still got the same resources there and infrastructure in place internally.
Yeah, absolutely. So through your response to Councillor Schwint, this year coming online, I think we're bringing on at least an additional 3 parks. So there is a growing need for staff as well too, just to maintain other amenities throughout the park. Everything else that we do in terms of washrooms, the new washrooms in Breslau, park garbages, playground inspections, all that sort of stuff. So staff resources will just be allocated elsewhere. Yeah.
There is a recommendation in the report. Someone moved by Councillor Cadeau, seconded by Councillor Grant. All those in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the bylaws. So the bylaws on the agenda. Do we need another one for the other item that we moved? Or is it just contained in the bylaw?
It is contained in the bylaw.
Okay. So the bylaws as listed on the agenda. Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Burgess. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. That concludes the council portion of the meeting. Councillor Bryant is going to chair Committee of the Whole, and I'm going to assume that we really don't need a recess if we're not changing spots. So I'll turn the committee over to Councillor
Whatever my name is.
Bryant. Thank you.
Okay. So good evening. We're now meeting as Committee of the Whole for items that require more debate and discussion. We will not be making final decisions on these items, but proposing recommendations for the next council meeting. If anyone in the community has feedback on these recommendations, we encourage you to reach out to staff or submit comments to council before a final decision is made at the next meeting. So we will go on to our first item, which is DS 09-2026 zone change application, Weber Sugarbush Supplies. For our next item, we have planner Sherwin Maloney here to present his report, and attending virtually is consultant Scott Patterson of Patterson Planning Consultants to address any questions. Mr. Maloney, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Councillor Bryant and members of council. The recommendation report before you today is regarding a zone change for the lands municipally known as 1217, 1219, and 1221 Lobsinger line. The proposed zone changes to amend the agricultural zone and existing site-specific provisions to permit the indoor storage and retailing of products related to maple syrup production, agriculture, canning and preserves, as well as the repairing of equipment utilized in maple syrup production and agriculture as a dry industrial, commercial, agricultural related use. The proposed area of operation will include a new warehouse and retail facility with uses accessory to the foreground associated parking and loading. Site-specific provisions have been added to the bylaw in this regard. The applicant is also proposing to construct at the rear of the property a new single detached dwelling, which will replace the existing primary dwelling, a detached accessory dwelling unit, and a barn to store horses primarily for transportation. The proposed detached accessory dwelling unit requires a MDS 1 setback reduction to livestock facility and manure storage located at 1125 Lobsing line. A provision has been added to the bylaw in this regard as well. While the lands have been designated within the protected countryside, it should be noted that the proposed development is outside of any identified environmental features or source water protection and will be subject to site plan control following council decision. Staff are recommending that the proposed amendment with site-specific provisions be approved as it is consistent with the applicable provincial policies and guidelines as outlined in the staff report and conforms to the township official plan and the former regional official plan. There has been no public comments to date. And thank you, and I'm available for any questioning.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions for staff? No, seeing none. Okay, before you, you have a recommendation. Is there anyone willing to move the recommendation? Councillor Schwint, seconded by Councillor Grant. Any further discussion? No, then I'll call the question. All in favor? And that would be carried. Okay, so that brings us to other business. I'll now turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of my question for council tonight is, we had spoken in the past about booking some additional meetings in your 2026 council meeting schedule. The first one, that would allow for, in addition to regular business happening, some strategic items that council might want either a dedicated meeting or a significant amount of time on a meeting to discuss. The first of those is March 31st. So we're at March 10th today. We have another meeting in 2 weeks on March 24th. And then 1 week after that, we have March 31st scheduled. So that is an opportunity to have our first sort of strategic issue. And I'm looking for council's input on that. If there's issues that we would like to see prioritized for that meeting. The other option, if council doesn't have any suggestions, we did ask staff. Staff didn't come up with any ideas when we most recently discussed it. If something comes up, we can certainly add it to the agenda. But if there's nothing to put on the agenda, we have right now scheduled a bylaw to confirm planning decisions that happen on March 24th. And then there's no other business scheduled currently, so we could also cancel that meeting. So looking for council's feedback on that, strategic items to be discussed on March 31st or the option to cancel.
Councillor Schwint?
So the first one that comes on my mind would be water, but I'm not sure that we're going to have enough information from the region. At the same time, I would think planning staff are going to be having to make some decisions for 2026, what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. And would think there needs to be a framework, a decision tree on how and when and what to evaluate. So maybe March 31st isn't the right time, but at what point will staff need to make some decisions on water and what's happening this year? And when will information be known?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Schwint. Jared, I'd look for some help with you, but only in the sense of, I'm trying to think that probably the best time, however, though, it's a few months out, is the outcome of the risk-based analysis. That will be a critical time frame with respect to understanding capacity, allocation of capacity, what's available and things of that nature. And so decision trees, as you say, around that. But that is a few months out, in fairness. Would I be correct in that, Jared? Or would you agree with a different time frame?
No, that would be correct. A watch, and I would recommend, and if you don't have it available, we can certainly provide the link, that all of council do watch and catch up if you haven't read some of the staff reports. I think that's critically important as well. And it identifies timelines, and there is concern on those timelines. They're very tight. There's a lot of information. I think you're going to hear this tomorrow evening as well from staff. So it's a little bit fluid, pun intended, probably there, but with kind of an April, May, dare I say, timeline is what it looks like.
Councillor Schwinn?
That helped. I don't know. I'm just curious, how's that align with our holding bylaw for Breslaw, which will expire April or May? Does that have any bearing at all? Or are we going to need to extend because we can't?
Oh, sorry, Deanne.
The interim control bylaw.
So we are still working forward with our Breslaw staging and our Breslaw plan, including the financial plan. We are still planning to come back to council in April, May, and don't expect that we'll need to extend that. We should have some answers by then. And that was mostly dealing with sanitary capacity, not water. But we have been working with applicants in the township to set up meetings to discuss individual applications with the region to figure out when and what developments can go forward.
Mayor Schatz? Sorry.
So, Mayor, and I forgive my, I don't know right now, is the regional council report live now, I guess, if the meeting's tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, David, that's okay.
Just did tonight.
Oh, so in the report then, just so we're correct on the dates, I want to correct the record here for the public too. It does speak to the interim risk management framework study targeting completion in May. It identifies that as very aggressive based on the technical requirements associated with that work. And an update on the interim risk management framework study is being provided to council by June in 2026. So that is the latest staff report, regional staff report to regional council. So just so we're clear what the record is.
Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I think you said tomorrow evening. The meeting is tomorrow morning at 9, just to be clear for everyone. And that'll be live streamed on the usual channel. I thought there was something else, but it's good.
Council, anything else on this? Jeff, where did you want to go with this?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, if water is something that we identify, water capacity, sorry, is it something we identify for a meeting in the April-May timeframe, we can definitely schedule a special strategic council meeting for a discussion around that timeframe. Right now, we have a March 31st scheduled, but nothing that staff or as yet council has identified.
Okay, so are we canceling that date at this point then, or?
If that is the will of council, we can cancel that date. See a few hands and then.
Thumbs up.
Oh, thumbs up.
Thumbs up, yeah.
Thumbs up. I'm seeing thumbs up.
1, 2, 3 for sure.
What we'll do then after this discussion is we will cancel that meeting. And what we may have to do is, as I said, just try to keep the Planning Act items continuing to move forward, but we'll find a way to do that.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now turn it over to Mayor Schatz for the regional report.
Thank you. I'm just looking at what we've attached here, and the item on there to highlight would be the region's buying 34 hybrid buses to replace gas buses. So that's moving in the right direction. But maybe more interesting and exciting, we welcomed our new regional CAO today, Darshpreet Batty. I think he had worked at the region And on the ION, when we were doing the ION, he's worked for Metrolinx. He's done a lot of work in transportation out west and here. So he's been around. He's got good credentials, and I think he's going to be a really good addition to the region. So other than that, we had a not quite so long day today, but we took all the water items off and put them till tomorrow. So if you add up that whole time, yeah, it was a long day. But yeah, and just to note that, you know, you can always get the reports online as well. And if you've got time during your day on committee day, you can tune in.
Thank you. Do we have any council reports, updates? Councillor Schwinn?
Our questions?
Or questions? Okay.
I think we've all driven down the roads, noticed potholes in Woolwich Township and throughout southwestern Ontario. Just curious, Mr. Poupet, when do hot mix operations, are they able to begin because of the weather? Are there any roads we've identified that are worse than we thought and patches aren't going to work, that we're going to have to make changes this year in? And then thirdly, when does our grading operations begin on the gravel roads, and all our graders ready to go and hit those roads when the timing's right?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Johnson, Councillor Schwinn. So, yeah, pothole season has definitely been a challenge for sure. The freeze thaw, I think, is, you know, I think it's safe to say it's right across Ontario. I don't think we're immune to this. And it does exasperate, you know, roads that maybe, I mean, it's fairly simple in that if water can enter the road base, then you're prone to some form of potholing with the freeze thaw cycle, and that just simply exasperates over time. One of the metrics, obviously, that is important is to determine how many potholes we're filling on a particular road, and then that should become a candidate for resurfacing at some point. We are looking to address some of our worst roads this year in Elmira, at least in Barnswallow between First and Church. That is on the capital paving program. So that will be a maintenance paving. That is not going to be a reconstruction. It'll be a maintenance paving road, which we would be looking to get 8 to 10 years out of, given the development right adjacent to the road, until such time that a full reconstruction can happen there. Whippoorwill will be what we call a resurfacing project. So that would be done where we hopefully don't need to come back until about 17 years to do the top lift again in a resurfacing. So that will be a full resurfacing, 2 lifts of asphalt, correct crossfall, spot repair, and a bunch of curb out there as well, and look for some sidewalk expansions on Whippoorwill. So that's a good news story. Whippoorwill has definitely been one of our problem children roads for sure for a long time. So those are our 2 wins. And then obviously couple that with the region's Arthur Street project, and all of a sudden Elmira goes from maybe worst to first in a short order. So yes, we are looking at some of these other roads. I don't have anything right off my head, Councillor Schwinn, that I can say has become a problem that we didn't know already was an issue. I think the real challenge is whether any material or product we put in now won't stick. It's a temporary Band-Aid, obviously, we know that. You really do need dry conditions. You do really need to use a Colas type material, which is like a tack coat, to bond the patch so that it does stay, and you got to pack it properly. So anything we're doing now is a Band-Aid, and it's just basically throwaway. Hopefully it stays long enough to get us into the spring and we can really address it in the summer. The gravel program, I don't have the timeframes, but I can certainly provide that to council on exactly when that plan is and what those roads are for the coming year. But there will obviously be a tender award report presented to council too for that and for where we will be. Our graders are ready to go, from my understanding, yes, and they would be hitting gravel roads and prepping for spring grade as soon as we are able. Again, weather dependent, that is always a problem. And I can tell you right now, we are in the throes of doing our gravel road inspection. We've been watching that over the weekend because that's a really critical time, is when frost comes out. Saturday wasn't the right day. I think tomorrow is going to be the right day with all the rain and the weather. We're probably going to see a lot of challenges in our gravel system after tomorrow for sure.
Mayor Schatz, you had something else?
Thank you. Yes, I should add that today was an announcement from Grand River Conservation Authority. Well, no, it wasn't from Grand River Conservation Authority. It was from the province of Ontario, that they are consolidating the 36, I think it was, conservation authorities down to 9. And so GRCA will be combined with Kettle Point, Long Point, and Catfish, which are 3 smaller conservation areas on the north shore of Lake Erie, adjacent to where GRCA comes down to. And it will be called Eastern Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority. Effective in 2027, probably around February is when they'll implement it. So that'll affect, it will be very similar to what the conservation with GRCA is now in terms of organization, where it's the upper tier is represented there. I think the number of people on may change, but I didn't get a clear answer, a clear idea of what that will look like. So anyway, just to let you know that there's some changes happening there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cadeau?
Sorry, something that Councillor Schwint had asked triggered something after I heard Director Poupet's response. When we're talking about Barn Swallow, if we're not doing a reconstruction, does that mean we're not going to get a sidewalk between Aspen and Crescent there, where there currently doesn't exist?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Cadeau, that's correct. It was just be resurfacing the travel portion of the roadway to give it a riding surface again, and then some shouldering, but no sidewalk expansions or curbing or any urbanization.
And then from First to Whippoorwill, it's just it's just maintain as is.
Yeah, curb, but there will be sidewalk, and forgive me, I don't know exactly where this, but as part of the development, sidewalk connectivity will be part of that work. And then we are exploring pedestrian crossings as a result of the trail, and where to implement maybe some PXO type pedestrian crossings. So that will be a nice improvement, I would suggest too. I certainly think nobody's going to complain about redoing Whippoorwill.
Absolutely right on that. Thank you.
Okay, anything from the outstanding activity list? Seeing none. Any items to be pulled from the information package? None. And any items for information and public notices? None. That brings us to the end of the regular meeting of council. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to go home. Councillor Burgess, seconder Councillor Grant, all in favor? That would be carried. And on behalf of council, we thank all those who watched the meeting or those who took the time to participate tonight. Good night, everyone.